All right, let's hope the camera angle is not zoomed in this time because apparently that's the bane of my existence. I mean, it's not really a big deal at the end of the day. You just get to see my glorious face every time. And speaking of that, I'm actually growing out the beard again because I don't feel like shaving anymore. And yeah, I'm mainly just lazy. But this time I'm probably just not even going to touch it. Like I was trimming it before, but I think this time I'm just going to let nature run its course on me. So we'll see. Um, but yeah, episode 6 or part 6. This time, I put in my 2 weeks today. That was pretty cool. So the first thing that I want to talk about is kind of related to that, and I put silencing doubt, but I kind of rethought about it a little bit after kind of like contextualizing everyone's comments because I've certainly been met with a lot of, "Oh, you don't have a plan? Well, like, what are you gonna do?" And I think there's like some validity to that. It's kind of crazy to just quit your pretty stable, relatively well-paying job and not have another plan and just wing it. But on the other hand, it doesn't affect other people's lives, and kind of tired with like struggling against life, and I want to just kind of start going with my gut and doing what my intuition is telling me. And I was kind of getting a lot of like little signs here and there that this would be the right option for me. um but yeah, some people are like, "Oh, what's next?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Okay, cool." A lot of people are happy for me, which is cool. Happy about that. And then I'm getting some people that are like, "Well, you're gonna be poor, you're not gonna have money," which I guess we'll see. um and then on top of that, going into silencing doubt too, um seeing more information that is talking about manifestation, kind of working on a deeper level where it has to do with your subconscious and your internal realm of belief, I suppose. Because everything that's happening in your conscious mind, the things that you can see and you can experience, you know what those are. So if you're negative all the time or you're sad all the time, you know what that is in your conscious mind. Whereas your subconscious mind could be kind of different because that's where stuff gets buried over time. So I think potentially if stuff isn't working out, which again, like I was saying, doesn't isn't really a concept in my mind because I'm going to take everything as it is and just try to experience and not really judge stuff. But if I'm trying to manifest these things and they aren't happening, I think it would have to do with my subconscious. And it's definitely like one thing I know that's related to my subconscious that I still have to confront a little bit. I don't really know how to do that entirely, but I'll figure that out. But otherwise, like I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at focusing on my internal and making it a kind of cleansed, nice, positive place, especially with the activities I'm doing and with the way that I'm thinking about my whole life. Not having these overly negative periods in my life where, it's just kind of reinforcing and going through. Like I'm relatively pretty chill now. So I'll see. The next point was the levels of attention, and this specifically relating this specifically to meditation because I started this new series where it's called like non-duality in waking up, and it does 1 hour meditation sessions. And they kind of mentioned also in just general waking up courses, they've mentioned kind of the different levels of attention, and I've started to recognize that in it, where you can kind of focus a ton and put all of your attention into like one thing while you're meditating, or you can divert your attention between things, or you can kind of just chill and not pay any attention. And I think that's really fascinating how you can pay different levels of attention, I think that kind of bleeds into real life too, where, someone can be talking and you can have a rough idea of what they're saying, but you can't, recite what they said to you. Or if you're like hanging on somebody's every word, then you're paying like close attention and you're really invested. So I kind of want to learn more about how attention levels work and kind of how you like crank that dial to decide what amount of attention you're giving something. And also kind of what that means for meditation. What is the purpose or what is the benefit of like zero level meditation? What is that doing for you versus the really focused and almost conversely serene meditation where you're super focused on your sensations or you're super focused on observing thoughts or whatever it might be. So I think it's really interesting how you can control and have different levels of attention, because I don't think I've ever thought of it like that. I think of attention as kind of an on off switch where you're either paying attention or you're not. The next one was changing environment. This goes into, what I've been considering lately and what I want to do next. There's two main sides to it in my mind. I think I've made up my mind where I do want to leave and I want to check something else out. But there is some validity to the belief that your problems are going to follow you. So changing environments isn't going to be a full 180 to fixing your life or giving you what you want. You kind of have to conquer your demons in the position you're at now. But I also think that there is a lot of power to escaping the bubble that you're in. I think some quote from like a Matrix video I watched probably yesterday or the day before, it was, you can't have high energy vibrations or high frequency vibrations in a low frequency bubble. So if you're surrounded by people that are, oh, the economy is low and I'm poor and I hate it, and people being negative and all this stuff, it's a lot harder to manifest those things or just generally be in a higher vibration than if you're in a new place where people are, more hopeful and they are higher frequency and all this stuff. And I think it even lends itself to more like excitement and even adrenaline, where it's like, okay, I'm going to a whole new country or I'm going to a whole new state that I've never been into before, just kind of checking stuff out. Like that keeps you more alert, that keeps you invigorated with life, and it lends itself to that excitement and that positivity and the hopefulness. So I think I'm pretty happy with where I'm at in terms of my own personal beliefs and my own personal outlook on life right now, where I'm not running from my problems. I think it is kind of a hero's journey where I want to set off, and I've been here for so long. I feel like I'm in a bubble. I want to check stuff out and explore. And it's like I've been hearing from so many people, explore while you're young before you have a wife and kids. And so like this is the time to do it. And even if it ends up causing me suffering, so be it. That was my decision, and I have to sit with the consequences of my actions. So I think if you are kind of in a rut and you feel like, I don't know, maybe just things haven't been going the way that you want recently, definitely look at like every variable. But there is definitely a chance that your environment could be holding you back. The people around you might be leaking into your subconscious and causing you to be that way. So just a thought. And then the last thing I wanted to discuss was limiting your source of information. So the videos watching, I've been getting on this new guy lately. I think it's like spiritual renaissance or something. He's pretty chill. I like him. Handpicks things from different religions about like God and Christianity and Buddhism and stuff like that. But he was talking about um, when you are like on YouTube or when you're reading a book, your brain craves information and wants to get smarter and get better. So it's like, oh, I'm going to watch all this stuff and I'm gaining a ton of knowledge and I'm getting really smart. but especially I find on YouTube, there's a lot of like slop knowledge where like you're you're taking it in, but it's not really beneficial knowledge. So either it is knowledge that is true and that could be applied in a way, but it's really not beneficial to you. Your brain is just like, oh, this is interesting. Like, let me learn about this. So you can definitely run into a rabbit hole where you're just going on like 5 hour YouTube binges, or you're reading a bunch of different books. Like I've kind of done that a couple times where I'm like, this is a really good author. I've heard this really good author. Let me read everything from them. And then you just kind of get to some stuff that's just not very useful. So I think picking a couple sources of information, whether that be a YouTube channel or an author or even like movies and shows, stuff like that, limiting the sources, the number of sources that you're following, and just truly studying those. Even I think a philosophy channel was talking about that. Pick a couple philosophers that you really agree with and just study their work over and over and over, hammer those ideas into your mind. I think that is much more practical and valuable than think the other dude, he said don't be like an information or a content whore. Don't go to everyone and get a little bit of everything, because it's not going to stick as well, and then you're going to confuse yourself. You're going to be like, do I believe in this or do I believe in this, or these sources conflict with each other. I think it's really good to kind of get your entourage, your ride or dies, and then just really take everything you can from them. And then, if you do get to a point where maybe you consume all of that and you're like, I'm happy with my knowledge base and where I'm at here, and then there's nothing else to even study, then you can look into like, okay, who's someone similar to them that I want to maybe get a couple more ideas from. And I really want to get better about doing that, about limiting my sources of information and just truly studying those, because I've definitely been guilty of kind of whoring myself out where I'm like, oh yeah, let me move on to this other author because they're gonna have so much more information. And I think, I don't know like the science behind it, but my theory is that our brain thinks, when we're getting introduced to a new source, the chance of us learning something new, or the volume of things we're going to learn, is much higher because it's a new source. So they want to do that, like that first book, or watch that video from that new person. Like our brains are like, oh, we're going to gain 2 times the amount of knowledge because this is a completely new source. Whereas like, maybe if we watch this video from this other person, it's going to be a lot of like repetition and people have already talked about it. So I think kind of recognizing that, sticking with what you know, and really mastering that. Like once you kind of realize that that's a valuable way to go, it can be a really big multiplier, like exponential multiplier in your knowledge and your journey and whatever you're trying to get good at. So happy to have put in my 2 weeks, and I still got like a solid amount of, income from that, and then whatever else. But we'll see, kind of just chilling, taking it one day at a time again. So we'll see you tomorrow. Peace out once again.